Friends of the Quintillion Institute, welcome yet again to our fine facilities, where researchers from all over gather, some smudged with the warm, fine sand of archaeological digs, and others glimmering with the dust of books excavated from the sunless depths of libraries, but all of them luminous with the determination to rediscover new words about words. As always, it is a pleasure to share our rediscoveries with our friends, colleagues, and supporters among the general public. And today I'm pleased to share news of our rediscovery of a trove of words about words found in ancient catacombs that all go by the name of energia. You see, energia is a word about words that provide lively and vivid descriptions of things, and it follows a principle that we see in the work of thinkers like Aristotle and in important texts like the Rhetorica ad Herennium, the idea of bringing things before your audience's eyes. This is more then than just referring to something by its name. Enargia is a practice that involves describing things in vivid and lively detail, as if the audience were seeing it themselves. The rediscovery of Enargia by itself would be cause to celebrate, but thanks to the support of private corporations, individual donors, and even some national governments, we had the opportunity to examine this word more closely using state-of-the-art muon tomography, and to our delighted astonishment, we found a whole trove of words about words, specific types of energia, enclosed within. So to illustrate the principle of energia itself and to share our most fortuitous and unexpected triumph, let's acquaint ourselves with these specific species of vivid description in no particular order other than alphabetical. And we'll begin with anemographia, description of wind, as in, when I left school, the wind roared against my body, causing me to lean forward while it whipped up whirls of horse dust from the stables across the street, winding up brown plumes and launching them in one torrential flow into squinting eyes and even past tightened lips. Or perhaps chorographia, the description of a nation, is more what the occasion calls for, as when the poet Gonçalves Dias describes his Brazilian home in contrast to Portugal like this. Our sky has more stars, our valleys have more flowers, our forests have more life, our life more loves. Chronographia presents a description of time. Outside my window, day by day, I've watched as imperceptibly bare, austere branches budded, bloomed, and then became a solid screen of varied greens, defiant with life, but sure once more to fade to orange and fall. And speaking of trees, dendrographia is what you do when you describe them vividly. In contrast to the dense and bushy forests at sea level, the trees at higher altitudes dramatize, it seems, the sparseness of the air, spindly limbs stretched wide, each reaching long and slender needles at every angle, as if to maximize the chance of catching a passing breeze and the next refreshing gulp of CO2. Geographia is, of course, the description of the Earth. Its appearance, green and tan hunks of continent floating on a deep blue sphere and surrounded by whirls and eddies of white, themselves floating in a thin film of breath, has become commonplace, not the shocking contrast it could be to the violent reds and other toxic hues of even its closest neighbors. You'll never guess it, but hydrographia is the description of water. It is a different kind of world past the narrow neck of a bottle, competing and turbulent currents slosh transparent against transparent walls, organizing themselves eventually into the periodic churn of a striated vortex. For the practical types, pragmatographia is the description of an action or event. One by one, she sealed envelopes, dipping a yellow sponge into the shallow dish of water she'd brought from the kitchen, spreading a slight sheen on each strip of glue, and then folding the lip over, applying a crease outward with her fingertips, and then drawing them back together at the envelope's point to seal it up before moving on to the next one. Prosopographia might sound familiar to those of you who were present for our rediscovery of prosopopoeia. It's the description of a person. And how could one not recognize the deep eyes and sunken cheeks, wreathed with dark hair and a trimmed beard that have bedecked in profile every penny for over a century? Which leads us, of course, to the final gem in this trove of rediscovery, topographia, or the description of a place. Turn the corner and you'd find a swirl of life and commerce, men hanging from vans shouting about rides to Maranguape or Abreu y Lima, cars with loudspeakers blaring cures for what ails you or limited-time offers on discounted produce, and shoppers shuffling through the market amidst the grind and growl of shop owners blending juice and carving out coconuts that ebbed and flowed from dawn to dark around the red brick cathedral at the center of Paulista. So, dear friends, we come to the end of our most recent rediscoveries, a range of tools for thinking more carefully about the things we describe and the ways we do it so that we can create more vivid and lively experiences for our readers. It's an opportunity not just to tell our readers what we want them to know, but to help them to experience it for themselves. But here at the Quintilian Institute, we are not just historians. No, we are also world-class innovators. So, based on these findings, I hope you'll allow me to propose some new forms of energia, new categories of vivid description. Because, after all, it appears that all of these forms or energia are just Greek words with the ending graphia stapled to the end of it. So why not take that same graphia and attach it to other Greek words of our own choosing? The precedent has been set. We're just following it. So please, enjoy these next forms of energia, not historical rediscoveries, but all new creations with ancient pedigrees. And we'll begin with, how about narcographia? I settled in for the night, pulling the blanket tight over my shoulders. With my eyes closed, my ears probed the dark for any creak or groan in the old house. But those eventually faded. My hands and feet went soft and senseless, my arms loose, and I took a long final breath before the robins and doves roused me some hours later. Maybe you're in the mood for some saccharographia, which doesn't have to be saccharine, but it could be. Look at each of these little crystals, a pile of sweet shards, a glitter heap of sucrose, and that dull, sweet smell. With something like this, you'd have a good case of chromographia. They were wearing pants with contrasting right and left legs. On the left, a fabric the shade of a deep lake or the sky after sunset and before total dark. And on the right, something like daffodil petals or the side of a school bus. And you'd also have instances of cyanographia and xanthographia, descriptions of blue and yellow respectively. But don't forget plintographia, oh humble brick, how I ponder your marvelous rough crust, earthen red speckled with mineral gems. Craniographia could come in handy if you ever find yourself in need of a way to refer to your description of a skull. It's made of the noblest gold, but weighted more like lead. Perhaps this inanimate head, nevertheless possessed of cool, glinting eyes that speak of some slumbering intelligence, is the work of an alchemical process halted a bit too soon. Graphographia could come in handy if you ever need to describe someone's writing. She traced the pen across the page with ease, arcing trails of blue in elegant strokes up and around, curling them back down, and twisting out flourishes at the end of every line. And I know you're thinking about it, so we may as well address it, but you should never underestimate the value of something like hendecagraphia, for all those occasions where you need a lively portrayal of the number 11. Behold these wide and certain pillars, single twins who, together, make up not 2, but even more than 10, side by side, as defiant as they are reassuring. But I suppose you get the idea. We could go on for as long as we had Greek words to attach to graphia. But of course, the goal is not just to create catalogs of ancient words. Yes, here at the Institute, that kind of careful taxonomic work occupies our day today. But that's exactly why we're qualified to remind you that it is less important to know each individual term than to understand the principles behind them. So whether you're dealing with hydrographia or even inventing acrographia, remember that it's not your minute technical knowledge that will make you a skilled communicator, but your ability to take your ideas and refashion them into experiences for your audience. Use the idea of energia and have fun with its ancient and novel variations, but remember that the goal is to bring something before your audience's eyes, to help them to see as you see, so that they will understand as you understand. But of course, there is some value in learning these words. You don't need to know the word dendrographia to describe trees, but knowing the term can help you to be more deliberate in your descriptions. And when you have explicit knowledge of the tools, when the situation calls for it, you won't just be a writer who happens to do the right thing from time to time. You'll know what you're doing and why you're doing it every step along the way. But I suppose I've gone on for long enough and wandered a bit from our initial rediscovery. So as you remember the importance of leveraging sensory descriptions to create meaningful experiences for your readers, I hope you'll indulge me in one final pragmatographic act as I say, reach out with fingertip or cursor, dear friend, and locate that thumbs up icon. Press it assertively, firmly, and joyfully to show the world how likable our time together was. Then drift along to that red shape proclaiming the word subscribe, and as long as you've never done it before, press that one too. Finally, with fingers flurrying over keyboards or thumbs tip-tapping on lettered pixels, fill that comments section with energia of your own. Whether in classical or novel varieties, it matters not. And with that, I give you our thanks and leave you until we meet again.